Hey everybody, welcome to Season 2 of the Author on Wheels podcast. My name is John Wood, and I am affectionately known as Author on Wheels. Join us as we have some incredible interviews with some incredible authors on the Author on Wheels podcast. Asten Clarke is an author who also happens to be autistic. She uses many of her life's experiences in order to write fictional work. So far, she has published 4 novels. Join us on the Author on Wheels podcast as we sit down with author Asten Clarke. As part of Season 2's update series, we are blessed to have Asten Clarke back in the Author on Wheels podcast studio to discuss her latest works. So let's invite Asten Clarke to the show. To the Author on Wheels podcast, Season 2, episode number 2. My name is John Wood, and today we are visiting the second author on our update tour. Today's visit takes place in Ipswich, England, with author Asten Clarke. A little backstory on Asten. She's an author with autism and mild cerebral palsy. She joins us today from her home in England. Asten, welcome back. How are things How are things in England right now?
Yeah, they're all right. Yeah.
Good. How are you doing with the current situation in the world?
Well, the current situation isn't too bad over here. Even masks are optional at the moment. So, yeah, it's not too bad at the moment.
So it looks like things are starting to kind of look back, to where they were pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And that's good. Things are starting to kind of do the same thing here. Even in my area, my little tiny town here in America, in Florida, we don't have as many cases. They're opening up. They've opened up sporting events in the schools again. Coliseums are back to 100% occupancy, and it's just amazing how things have flourished since we were here back in March of 2020.
Yeah.
So let's get on with it, and let's talk about, since we last talked, you've published some more books, correct?
Yeah, I have.
How many books have you published since our last interview? Can you tell us a little bit about them?
I've written 3 more installments in my The Fan series, another installment to the Rainbow Balloon series, and another title called Hannah and the Demi Isles.
That is incredible.
I know.
Wow. I mean, coming back to our first interview, for those that followed us on the first interview, I had only known Asten for about a month before we put together the interview.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. That's incredible. Now,
okay.
Here's a little bit of a difficult-ish question. How do you think lockdown has affected your writing, if at all?
Well, it's given me plenty of time to write. I haven't really thought about doing any lockdown themed pieces, but maybe that's something to think about in the future.
Maybe, after everything's over, said and done, you can do like a look back at lockdown piece and, kind of like discuss your thoughts going into it, being in it, and then coming out of it, and go from there. It sounds really good.
Yeah.
As of this interview, do you have any more titles to come in the future?
Yeah, I'm simultaneously working on 3 different projects at the moment. Yes, I'm one of those. And honestly, I don't know if I'll finish any of them or not. In an ideal world, I'd love to finish them all and release them all, but I'm known for abandoning projects, so who knows?
I completely get you, because I'm kind of like that too. I'll sit there and I'll work on a project for a couple months, and then I'll be like, screw it, scrap it. And then I'll be like, oh, I wish I had that back. I could have used bits and pieces of it for this project and that project. And I'm like, oh God, it's just about to do my head in. Let's just say that. But seriously, I mean, judging back from the year prior, it's been like, as writers, we've kind of gone through a change, with the whole COVID situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of affected the way at least in my opinion, the way that we write and the way that we do things,
Yeah.
because we were so used to going out and being, hands on things and being able to do whatever the heck we want, and then all of a sudden, bloop, gone, done. It's
Yeah.
like someone just unplugged the computer and just said, "Nope, you're not going to write about that anymore. You're gonna write this, and this." And I'm like, "Okay, you're going to do my head in more. Okay, wonderful." Do you ever feel like that? You ever feel like it's
Yeah.
just, ooh? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll even say it right now. COVID has basically jump started my career in a way.
Really?
I was able to publish all 3 of my books so far during the COVID pandemic.
Oh,
We
wow.
we started in March with A Fight to Survive, and
Yeah.
then following in December with Disability Devotional, and then in June of this year, June 4th actually, which is ironically 3 days after I graduated from high school 8 years
Yeah.
ago, I was
Yeah.
able to publish my children's book, Wandering Wheels.
Wow.
And so I'm just like, maybe it's like, COVID hit at the right time for me to be able to boost my career.
Yeah.
And, I've been following you, and you've been doing so much, with the Rainbow Balloon series. All your series are doing good so far. In fact,
Thank you.
actually, I'm not even sure where I put it, but I have a copy of your autobiography in
Yeah.
my office somewhere. I have to find it, of course. Ah,
Yeah.
I hate having a desk that's like messy. But anyway, but no, seriously, I just wanted to do this little quick update to see, how you were doing and how your writing was doing. Our listeners would like to, hear a little bit more. Um, but no, seriously, do you have you updated your contact information for any of
Yeah,
our
I have.
listeners?
I have,
So
yeah.
what we can do is we can put all that in the information of this interview. That way
Yeah.
people can, because I know you've updated your website,
Yeah.
and you've updated your website several times, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. So,
I've updated twice as well,
yeah.
and I've got several new things that I'm doing, and it's just like we're able to, in a way, flourish because
Yeah.
we're not letting a situation happen that affects us from doing
Hmm.
what we do as authors.
Yeah.
And for a while, you and I were working on the book we were writing.
Yeah, we were. I don't know what happened to that. But
I've got it saved somewhere. I think we need to
yeah, I've got it
have a
saved as well.
have a little bit of
But
a
we need to
chat.
go back to that.
Yeah, we need to have a little bit of a chat, sit down on that.
Yeah.
But guys, I'm just letting you know now, this may be one of the shortest interviews I've ever done, and I hope that's okay with you. But if you want to, give any more, just go ahead, because I'm ready.
Okay. I don't really know what else to say, but
I
yeah.
I can already say, guys, that I can just say this right now. You're listening to 2 authors that have different abilities, different talents, different, ways of doing things. But in a way, it doesn't interfere with the way that we live, does it?
No.
No. I mean, yeah, you have autism.
Yeah.
You don't let it affect you. You put your what I call your autism brain into your writing.
Yeah.
So that way it doesn't even show, hey, I've got autism, but here's a book that I've wrote. So here you
Yeah.
go. And it's like me. I've got spina bifida. Here's a book that I wrote. Here's 3 that I wrote. You know? Just because
Yeah.
we have different abilities does not mean that we are not normal people and that we don't,
No.
do things that normal people do.
Exactly.
I like to bowl, I like to play basketball, I like to run around and,
Yeah.
be a normal 27-year-old, and
Hmm.
I just do
Yeah.
I just do things from a wheelchair.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like my wheelchair turns into a transformer and I'm
Mhm.
you know, running around hurting people or anything. It's not like I'm trying to, cause mayhem. I'm not one of those transformers in the movies that you see that's terrorizing town. I'm not King Kong in a wheelchair. Let's just say that. Anyway, long-winded. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Fun. But guys, I I'm impressed with how this interview went. Asten, thank you so much for joining us today,
That's all right.
and I hope you again are doing well, and I hope you
Yeah.
continue to do well.
Thank you.
And if you ever want to come back for part 3 of the story, let us know.
Yeah,
I
absolutely. Yeah.
Because one of these days, I swear, one of these days, I'm going to see you on the bestsellers list. I want to see you on the bestsellers list. That's what I want.
Yeah.
But guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Author on Wheels podcast, season number 2. This has been another incredible update interview with Asten Clarke, Ipswich, England. Guys, let me ask you this. How are you telling your story? I write my story on wheels. How about you? It's all about telling your story and telling it to the best of your ability. It doesn't matter if you use extra words or, you write it a certain way or whatever it may be. Whatever the story is, you're writing it to the best of your ability, and I encourage you to write it, to continue to write it to the best of your ability. Continue your fight. Continue to fight through whatever stigmas or bad things may be coming your way. Because, we all have a story, we all have a voice. And I
Yeah.
encourage you to use your voice to tell your story to the best of your ability. With that
Mm.
being said, Asten, would you like to close out with anything?
Um, just thank you for listening, and yeah, it's been good to be back on the podcast.
Very, very, very welcome to be back. Very glad to have you back. As always, guys, our interview guests' social media will be in the information of the interview. You can find us on Anchor. You can also find us on Spotify. You can find us on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Breaker, Castbox, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Stitcher. That is all the podcast platforms that we are available on. So wherever you are listening to the Author on Wheels podcast from, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you guys on the next interview. We will be interviewing next with author Juan Diaz, who joins us from his home in, I believe, Washington? I'm not sure. I'll have to find out. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Asten, we will see you later, my friend.
Bye.
Bye bye, guys.